time. Hi. How are you? There we go. It's Friday. And it's coffee time. I read a report recently that said pour over coffee is bad for you. So I stopped reading it. Good morning, everybody. Welcome. Today is Friday, May 8th, 2020. My name is Jeremy, and this is my first cup of coffee. Notice the dog on the mug. So this dog, good morning, Stacy. This is Nugget. Nugget was my dog growing up. And today is her birthday. May 8th. She's been gone about 20 years, so she would have been like 34. So obviously she passed away a while ago, but she was my dog and my best friend growing up, and I still miss her. Because she's awesome. She was awesome. And I hope to have a dog again someday. Went for a walk the other day and got to meet I met one of my neighbors, but I also met their dogs. This woman was walking 3 dogs and could not handle it because one of them was this monstrous pit bull with a huge, probably the biggest head I've ever seen on a pit bull. It was absolutely enormous. And, I could tell she's freaking out, and I live in an area where there aren't a lot of people walking around. So she said one of the dogs was off leash. I stopped about 100 feet away because I could tell she was concerned. I yelled to her. I said, I love dogs. As long as the dogs are fine with me, I'll be fine with them. And she said, okay. And so I got closer, and they all dragged this poor woman over. And the big head, and there was some old, I don't know, some kind of mixed breed that had like a beard. Looked like it was some kind of, looked like a black Irish setter, to be honest. And then there was this little white something, and that one was deaf. They were all old, and it was just really sweet. They were just 3 great dogs, and would have taken 2 of them home, not the little one. The little one made a lot of noise for a deaf dog. Dogs are the best. So yesterday was a pretty good day. Went out, helped a client, did some work around here, washed the dirt off my car. I'd say I washed my car, but I didn't really wash my car. What else did I do? Did more work. It's been hasn't been the most productive week. Got a podcast episode that I should record at some point for a Thursday episode. Didn't do it. I'm gonna aim for that on Tuesday. As we get to the end of the week, I just don't have the energy for the creative stuff. Just it doesn't come. So I push it back. What else? What else we got? Some trees that I ordered, some bare root trees that I ordered a couple months ago arrived, and of course you're supposed to plant those as soon as possible. And you know what's coming here on Saturday? A snowstorm. We've got lows below freezing and snow, and it's supposed to be this record-setting thing. So I had to do a bunch of research on how long they could keep and what to do with them. Well, they're in my garage, and fingers crossed that they don't die. I spent like $100 on trees. And yeah, today should be pretty fun, pretty exciting. General workday stuff, but then also this evening, very good friend of mine's getting married. There was a big wedding planned, and of course, because of everything going on, that was canceled. And I got a text on Tuesday night that said, we've basically said, screw it. we're getting married on Friday. I need you there. And I went, okay. When someone says they need you at their wedding, you say yes, right? Uh, it's going to be small. There's going to be something like counting everyone. I think she said 14 of us. So it's a small group. But I'm really happy for these two. I've known her for, God, 15 years. She was one of my first friends in the business world around here. I mean, I've known her, well, I knew her before a lot of things. Yeah. So it's fun to see her get married. It's going to be great. And what else is going on this weekend? I mentioned the snowstorm, so that's kind of throwing a wrench in some things. Stacy's saying, episode 499 is here and episode 500 is coming. Celebrate all weekend. Yes. If you want to celebrate all weekend, that would be great. What was pretty significant that happened yesterday as it relates to this show? And I'm curious to those of you watching right now, if it seems any better, especially those of you watching live. Because I upgraded the internet. I told you that was going to happen. That finally happened yesterday. I did all the testing. It's working. As far as I can tell on my end, things are much, much faster. And so I'm curious, is the quality any different? Is it better? I don't know. I don't know what it is. I don't know what it looks like from your side, but let me know. Because we're redoing Whistlekick Live this coming Tuesday. Knock on wood that it goes much better this time. I mean, I can't get a bigger internet connection without spending a lot of money. And upgrading all of my hardware, all my network gear. So, fingers crossed. Sunday's supposed to be nicer than Saturday. Hopefully the snow will have melted. Welcome to Vermont. And my hope is to get outside and go for a long walk or a bike ride or something. That's kind of become the weekends. I try to find one day out of the weekend to get out on an adventure. And yeah, so that's it. So let's look at the questions, the comments, the things that you all sent in. Remember, if you want to send something in, drop it below. I'll respond tomorrow. First up, the jokes for Funday Friday, courtesy of Frank. What do martial artists drink? Punch. What martial art came from Sweden? Aikido. Aikido. I screwed that up. What martial art came from Sweden? Aikido. There we go. Have you seen the new Karate Kid movie? It's sensational. I've got a feeling that last one, at the very least, is an original. Possibly all three of these are original. I haven't seen any of those before, so I've encouraged Frank to make a book of martial arts jokes. Hopefully someday he'll do that, because he's got some good ones. And now we've got some other stuff. All right, 5 quotes from Thomas Edison. And of course, we know Thomas Edison for a lot of things, and the light bulb being the biggie, the telephone. Absorb ideas from every source. Now, it doesn't say knowledge. It doesn't say wisdom. It says ideas. Something that we need to be better about in the martial arts. Something we're getting to the point of. Right? And what are those sources that you can absorb from? Of course, your class, your instructors, podcasts, books, movies, TV, other classes, seminars. There's a lot out there. And we don't have it here, but of course there's that quote from Bruce Lee about taking in everything and just, keeping what's useful, discarding the rest. I'm just watching the cat's hips. I think I've mentioned that, I've of course mentioned that she's old, but she's on fish oil now, and we've brought the acupuncture frequency up because her hips aren't moving so great. So I'm just watching and trying to get a baseline for where things are. The doctor of the future will no longer treat the human frame with drugs, but rather will cure and prevent disease with nutrition. How much can I say about this, given the current climate, without people losing their minds? Because I think we know I try to be very apolitical. I try. It is my goal that you have no idea how I feel politically about things. And I've said this on the show before, so I'll say it again. Every cell in our body started from some combination of food and air and water and light and DNA. There has never been a condition in the body where you were deficient in ibuprofen, for example. Our Western medicine approach is very often to address the symptoms and not the cause. And if we take a very small step into the current crisis that we are facing, to me that manifests as, okay, yes, there are all these things we can do to prevent, but what about boosting our immune system? I see very few people talking about that, and that's really a shame. Because there are things you can do so that if you are around people with COVID-19, you are less likely to contract it. And these aren't dramatic things. But how interesting is it that Thomas Edison, one of the most brilliant minds of all time, and a great businessman, by the way, over 100 years ago, was talking about how eventually we would stop using drugs. Well, we're using more drugs now. Pharmaceuticals are a much bigger place in our medical system and in our lives than they were back in his time. Doctors are surprised when I tell them I've never had a prescription, which is not entirely true. I was diagnosed with prednisone, or I was given prednisone for a week back when I had a really bad case of poison ivy when I was 8. Other than that, never had a prescription. And I didn't have to fill that prescription, so I don't have a pharmacy. And they always look at me funny. What do you mean you don't have a pharmacy? I don't have a pharmacy. I haven't taken anything. I don't take things. I eat food. Does that mean that if I had some kind of horrific condition that I wouldn't take something? No. It just means that I prioritize prevention, and I believe the number one way to do that is with lots of good, healthy, tasty, yummy, supportive food. Most of my ideas belong to other people who never bothered to develop them. Well, that's partly true. If you know anything about the history of Thomas Edison, you know that he was quite fond of borrowing ideas from other people and sometimes downright stealing them. But as I said, he was a great businessman and was really good at commercializing things. When you look at the electric light, he developed the electric light. Some say he stole it, whatever. Not only did he develop the light, he built the electric utility that needed to exist to make lights usable. Because if you just have a light bulb, you don't have a socket, because who puts in a socket before there's a light bulb? And how do you even make that socket work if there are no electric lines? So he did all that in, I want to say it was Manhattan. I think, was it the New York Stock Exchange was the first one? It was something down there. He had his business run a ton of electric line. And I have a bug zapper going over there because of all the plants. Historically, he's caught a lot of flack. And if you do research, if you do research on Edison, you're not going to find a lot about what he did in terms of, intellectual theft. But if you do research on Tesla, Nikola Tesla, you will find some things. Because there was some interesting stuff that happened as Tesla developed stuff. For example, we now understand that a lot of what Tesla developed was better. For example, the 110 volt electricity that runs over power lines should have been 12 volt. 12 volt, if I'm remembering my science correctly, there's less energy leakage as it transmits. So we would have had more efficient power transmission. But to change that now would require a complete dismantling of the system. The greatest invention in the world is the mind of a child. I think one of the things that I'm very thankful for is that very few people in my life told me to stop being imaginative, to act my age, things like that. I think I still have a bit of a childlike curiosity. I like to know how things work. I like to take things apart. I like to figure things out. And I've had to be a little more cautious about the things that I take apart and learn with because, cars and houses and things, if you don't do it right, it's dangerous or at least really expensive. So I do it with websites and business and martial arts and other stuff like that. I like to learn. A couple weeks ago, I think I talked about how I've been trying to find a hobby. And I still haven't really settled on one yet. I mean, if I have a hobby right now, it's plants. But as I consider options for hobbies, the thing that is really important for me is learning something. If I'm not going to develop a new skill or develop some knowledge from the time I'm investing, it's really not that interesting to me. And so far, the number one, the leading contender is hydroponics, is growing plants inside, in water, because I think that might be neat. So, something I'll work on over the summer. Once I clear all these guys out to the porches for the summer, and I have some room in here. Because right now, the place is full of plants. I never view mistakes as failures. They are simply opportunities to find out what doesn't work. And of course, if you know anything about Edison, the history of the light bulb, 10,000 attempts at finding the filament that would burn long enough to be economical. If you look at a conventional light bulb, right, there was the two posts, and the electricity would pass through, and there's a material in between that would heat up and generate light. And that was the thing that they kept struggling to figure out, was what's the material, what's going to go in between there. And they tried 10,000 different things, and most of them didn't work. And it's because of that approach, the mindset that your failures tell you what doesn't work, allows you to hone in. Edison believed there was something. He knew there was something, there was an answer, and he just knew that if he kept chipping away at wrong answers, eventually he'd be left with something that would work. This has become my philosophy on life. The more we try, the more we screw up, the more mistakes we make, but the more we learn. Because human beings, we're taught when we're in school, we're taught that, hey, you go to school, you're taught what to do and how to do it. But if you look at children, How do we learn? By making mistakes. We actually, as a species, learn by figuring out what not to do. And if you're willing to take that approach, it leaves a lot of possibility. When I look at whistlekick, I've learned a lot of things to not do. I've learned about businesses to not partner with, people to not partner with, products to not sell, factories to not do business with, methods and prices. And I've learned a lot of things that don't work. And what's left? Things that either do work or might work. That's pretty great. To have all this stuff that might work or some things that do work, cool. When I think about things from this way, it reminds me of some information that I read about a couple years ago. People in their 60s tend to be the happiest. Why? Why would people in the 60s be the happiest? You might think, oh, it's because they're retired. Well, no, that's not it. People in the 60s, in their 60s, have lived long enough to know what they enjoy. They know what they don't want to do, and it leaves them with things to do. It leaves them with options. Travel, or build things, or build our dream home, whatever it is, whatever's important. They've narrowed up their view of life. They generally have the disposable income to do those things because they've saved or worked or whatever. And they're still physically healthy enough to do all of those things. It's an interesting intersection. And when if you take that and you apply those lessons to wherever you're at in life now, think about the things that are important to you. You probably discovered them through some kind of mistake. Maybe you don't realize it was a mistake. Maybe this theory is completely off base with you. But I can look at my life as a sequence of mistakes and errors and happy accidents. And when I line them up that way, it leads me to now. Had I not dated the wrong person through my last couple of years of college, I never would have moved to Vermont. Had I not moved to Vermont, I may not have started my own martial arts school. I may not have stopped my own martial arts school. I may not have ended up at a Taekwondo school that was so supportive that I felt that it was worth exploring starting a sparring gear company. And I may not have met John, who was ultimately the person that found the prototyper that helped me find the factory to build the sparring gear. Because I had given up. John found the prototyper. I couldn't find them. There are a lot of accidents. There are a lot of mistakes I made. And they've all led me to where I am now. And the reason I share that, and honestly, there are some elements I just shared that I've never shared on this show or even on Martial Arts Radio. If we take a lesson from Edison, it's that we need to value mistakes. We need to look at the importance of messing up because it tells us, okay, that's a path that we don't go down. So what's left? When you look at modern business today, there are quite a few high-level entrepreneurs or let's say experienced business people talking about failure. For a long time, failure was deemed as this thing to be avoided and discussed. There's a lot of lessons. There are a lot of lessons in failure. And we need to stop being afraid of failure. How do we learn in martial arts? We learn by failing. If you're sparring and you get punched in the face, you failed to block. But you probably learned something about what to do next time. It's that constant test, fail, iterate, repeat. It's that cycle that leads us to everything that we do in life. So don't be afraid of the failure. Be afraid of not taking the lesson from the failure. Try not to make the same mistakes over and over again. Okay. I hope you have a good weekend. I hope that if you have something to say or a question to ask, a quote, something, you'll drop it below. Give me some of this material to riff on. I appreciate it. It makes me better. I hope you have a wonderful day, a wonderful weekend. If you're somewhere that's going to get snow, bundle up. Good luck. Remember, we do this show every weekday morning, 6:30 a.m. Eastern. But you can always watch it later. If you want to support the work that we're doing at Whistlekick, make a purchase at whistlekick.com with the code FIRSTCUP15 or subscribe to the Patreon, patreon.com/whistlekick, and we'll give you even more content. And remember, episode 500 drops on Monday. I get to see the first draft later today. I'm excited. So, take care, everyone, and I'll see you back here on Monday. Peace.